taking control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. The little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. We the people have taken over. We the people are little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them project you as you are. Feel your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Let your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Superman, and we're the only ones who can be strong, but we break on command, 'cause women rule the world.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. It's good to have you along for the ride wherever you are on this great planet we call Earth. We are live right here in Uncle Jimbo's cabin, right here in the Great White North on this Thursday night, early Friday morning if you're on the East Coast. Let's welcome everyone listening in on spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on Revolution Radio. We do this thing every night of the week as we rock in and out of every show, thanks to our resident guitar god, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses. Yes, Bumblefoot is the official sound of SOR. Hey, you can follow me on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Find us on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. If you want to take part in the show, you have to sign in to one of our chat rooms, either on Revolution Radio, on Spreaker, and on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. That is free. But if you haven't signed up for the SOR Space Travelers Club yet on our website, well, it's only $5 a month. And with that, your name gets entered into monthly prize draws. You get access to private group interviews, access to a special section on our website, and much more. Hey, we're going to give you a hell of a lot more than just access to our archives. While on our website, you can read up on our latest blogs, check out Eric Markham's SOR Spacewire for your latest and weird news. And if you've had an experience you just can't explain, just head to our website, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our researcher, Mike Schmidt, is ready to find out what's going on. All personal information is 100% confidential. We want to thank everyone listening in on our new affiliate, the United Public Radio Network, on 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and their listeners from over 160 countries around the world. Thank you for letting Spaced Out Radio be part of your new family. And remember, if you're a listener on Revolution Radio, it is the largest nonprofit online radio station going today. Do us a favor, visit freedomslips.com and donate today. There's that old Buffalo Springfield song that starts out, "There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear." That's how many of us feel when it comes to the topic of UFOs and disclosure. Because for those of us who've had an experience of seeing something strange in the skies above, or even up close and personal, we want to know what's going on. Yet there's really no formal person out there who is willing to tell us what we're seeing is exactly what we're seeing. Seems kind of unfair, doesn't it? Think about this for a second, people. There are millions of people on this planet who have had interactions with UFOs. Yet all the major players in the world, from the U.S. government right down to the Vatican, are keeping the truth away from us. The governments who are supposed to be protecting us are shielding us in the same breath. But what do they have to shield us from? That's what we need to know. Do we have craft? Are there regular visitations? What's hiding at Area 51? These are subjects that need to be discussed. Yet hiding behind the badge of national security, they don't have to tell us anything. It's almost George Orwell's 1984 when it comes to the subject of UFOs, because we're all equal, but some of us are more equal than others. Tonight, director and actor Reuben Langdon joins us to discuss disclosure. This is a topic that's close to his heart because he's one of those millions who've seen weird objects in the sky. Reuben, in his daytime job, is a Hollywood stuntman, appearing in features with the Power Rangers, as well as being a stuntman on Spider-Man 2, amongst his plethora of resume projects. Reuben, though, is a truth seeker who believes our eyes are trained to see and experience the norm. But it's the questions of those sightings out of the norm that leads him down this extraordinary path. He's taken part in the citizen hearings in Washington. He wants answers and won't stop until every door he opens is finally closed with trusted and confirmed logic. His website is ReubenLangdon.com. We bring Reuben into Spaced Out Radio now. Thank you so much for being on the show for the first time. Good to have you along for the ride.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, my friend, because anytime I get to talk disclosure, I'm pretty happy about it. As an experiencer myself, I can honestly say there's something going on out there, man, and we got to figure out what it is. So what got you along this path?
Oh, wow. Let's see. I guess I've told this story many times, but never gets old. I got started back in 2007. I had a sighting, daytime sighting of all I can say from now, even now at this time, after being in it for so many years, maybe a fleet of craft. They were quite small and quite far away, but I could see them for about 45 minutes. I was sort of tracking them in the sky and eyes glued and making phone calls to other friends at the time, trying to see if they could see the same thing. And it was in Glendale, California, a very populated, bustling city. And in the middle of the day, you would think that, at least I thought at the time, that news outlets and media would be covering it. It would be all over the nightly news. And I was anxiously had my eyes glued to the TV set that night to see what was going to happen. And nothing, crickets. But my curiosity was weaponized as what Jeremy, my good colleague and friend Jeremy Corbell would say, and I started my journey on trying to figure out what was it I saw, and if I could see it again, or what, and then I that sort of opened the door into this. The rabbit hole, the land of the mysterious, the unknown, which some of us seem to have a better handle of it than others, but it's still, for the majority of the public, probably not your listeners, other people other than your listeners, are still trying to figure it out. And I guess that your listeners, too, we're all trying to figure it out. That's why we're having this conversation.
Well, and that's the big thing, too, because what you said just resonates so much with me. When my own personal experiences started a number of years ago, I really didn't know where to turn. And as a former journalist, Reuben, I literally did what I thought was right. I went on TV. I remember calling up my former newsroom when we had this really weird, strange orb literally fly across the sky, do this zigzag, and then just drop. I think it dropped into one of the lakes in the area was. I called up my former newsroom and I said, hey, anything being reported in my town? And my buddy John on the other end was like, what are you talking about? And I told him what I saw. He goes, Dave, have you been drinking again? And I'm like, I don't drink, John, and so there's this whole line of mystery that, we think the media is covering it up, but in reality, they are just way too crass to even worry about topics like UFOs, and we're not getting the truth from government. But like I said, what you mentioned about, all of a sudden getting that drive and that desire to figure out what it is you saw, when you get that in your blood because it's been so personal, you can't get it out, can you?
No, no. And it just gets stronger. You know, the more you start digging, the more you find out other people have had experiences. Sometimes you, or I'm sure you and myself and others have even more experiences to sort of verify and even go deeper in other cases. So, yeah, I call it the peeling away of the onion layers. And it's an ongoing process. And, you know, I think that's part of this wonderful life we live in, this realm called planet Earth, that, you know, we get to enjoy. It's the journey, right? It's not the destination.
Absolutely, but that destination seems to be so covered up. And there's one thick blanket on it, my friend. One thick blanket.
Right. Well, the UFO blanket is definitely a big one. But, you know, what sort of got me started, I think, you know, actually, I should back up a little bit. Before the 2007 sighting, I started hearing about, you know, the 9/11 conspiracy, the chemtrails, fluoridation in the water, all these things now that sort of are quite common and not so mysterious anymore. They're sort of matter of fact. For the most part, at least 9/11, for the most part, most people sort of know something suspicious went on there. But I was sort of getting into those modes of discovery. And then the UFO one was a big one for me. And then that's where I really went in with my focus. But, you know, any UFO researcher, ufologist, it kind of comes with the territory, all of these other things. The UFO blanket is a big one, I would say, but it's just part of a bigger, you know, picture that, you know, maybe we could get into some of the other stuff as well tonight, because it goes deep, you know, the layers, the veils, are quite deep, I would say.
Well, and that's the big thing, too, is like we were talking before the show, every time you open a door, there's 10 more behind it. And each behind those doors, when you open up those each 10, there's 10 more behind each and every door of those. And it just seems like this revolving set of doors that never seems to come to an end. And it's all a different path. Yep. It's like Alice going down the hole in Alice in Wonderland. You know, and it's frustrating at times. And I'm curious how you look at this field in regards to that, because the minute you think you have an answer to what's going on, or maybe some plausible conclusion, boom, there's another door right there. So how do you deal with it?
Yeah, I've definitely been opening a lot of doors since the beginning of this journey in 2007, and it's led me to the door I'm sort of really talking about now. And I in my work with the film and television and video games and voiceovers, because of some of the characters I portrayed, I get invited to comic conventions, comic book and anime conventions. And I do a panel at these conventions. It's sort of semi-related. I do a bunch of panels related to the industry, motion capture, voiceover, stunt fighting, and these sorts of things. But I do a late night panel that's sort of like a bonus panel for the con goers to peer into this other world that I actually am, you know, in pretty deep with the conversations that we're having here. And I call this panel, "What is Reality?" And it's sort of my take, after being in this for so long, my viewpoint of reality, which is, you know, a very scientifically based one. That's where I try to come at it using scientific data, you know, quantum theory and string theory, and a lot of things that we sort of already have proven as fact, but haven't quite made it to the textbooks yet. And then I create this construct of reality, or I present a new paradigm, a new outlook of what reality is. And that sort of my collective investigations of all of this stuff has led me down this path. And when we can define when we can give ourselves this new definition of what reality is, then the unknown isn't as scary. These strange things that are happening are now not so strange, because in this new construct of reality of anything of infinite potentials and multi-dimensional realms, holographic universe, it's not so impossible anymore, and it actually sort of massages your brain so you can actually open yourself up to these experiences, as opposed to shutting yourself down and seeing things through a narrow tunnel. So that's where it sort of has led me into this whole new worldview. That's Danny Sheehan in the Citizen hearing that I produced. He mentions this in his discussions with the Congress members, that sort of what's needed and what's going to naturally evolve out of all of these people having these experiences and all this evidence being presented and everything else, is sort of a new worldview, a new construct of reality that will then bring us into the next level, right? And going through more doors, obviously, but when you can have a base point, a starting position of saying, okay, we know based on collective evidence as well as personal situations and personal experience, we can sort of start from here and go from there, as opposed to the old story that we've been telling ourselves for, hundreds and thousands of years, is now sort of falling away. Like, that story doesn't work anymore. So that's what's exciting. And that's where I guess I'm going with all of this research and investigation is this new worldview that really is, I believe, is the next huge jump into our collective evolution. Is we're, as a species, as we adapt this new worldview and incorporate these, not theories, but facts, these scientific discoveries that have been labeled in the past mystical or unrealistic or, woo-woo, we're now finding that all this stuff is actually real. UFOs, ETs, harnessing the power of the sun in your hand through a small device, or even through ancient breathing techniques that can, allow you to sustain extreme cold in these sort of, all of this crazy stuff. Other dimensional beings appearing, reappearing, remote viewing, bilocating. We have all these different terms that are now sort of through our entertainment industry becoming sort of mainstream topics now, dinner table topics, where they used to be taboo. But because of conversations like these, because of shows, TV shows, and other fantastic things that are now bringing everything home, we're now able to expand our vocabulary and, like I said earlier, massage our brains and really start to adopt this new worldview. So it's very exciting. I'm excited.
So going back to 2007, when you had your first sighting, obviously we all try to talk to people and say, hey, have you ever seen something like this? Or, man, you got to know what I saw the other night. How was the reaction around your peer group, maybe family, friends, and then going into the entertainment business when obviously this touched you and encapsulated you so much? What was their reaction?
Initially, I didn't share it with too many people because I still had I was still sort of in that zone of, I'm not a super public figure, but public enough to get invited to conventions, and I have, profile or whatever. At that time, I had a MySpace profile, and then it turned into, Facebook. So I wasn't very public about my experience at that time with fans per se, or that kind of thing, until 2010. initially I sort of just kept it amongst close colleagues and people who I knew were sort of okay to or into the subject matter, or could sort of empathize with my experience. I knew many people would just not get it and think I was a Looney Tune. Most of them thought I was a Looney Tune either way, so because of just my character. So I didn't share it too publicly. And then 2010, I actually went to one of Stephen Greer's CE5 events. It was a weekend event in Tucson, Arizona. And 3 nights in a row, we sat under the stars and did our meditations and called in, various lights in the sky. That's the only way I could describe what I saw. I didn't have any, fantastic episodes of, memories of being brought aboard ships or having any sort of things like that, but definitely saw stuff that I could not explain. I knew they weren't planes, and they were, a lot of these lights were moving so fast and in such precision. They weren't meteors, they weren't satellites or the sorts of the normal things that we try to make sense of or try to label these fantastic events. So that sort of sealed the deal for me in just knowing absolutely that what I saw previously was most likely an out of this world phenomenon. And the more I dug into it, after going to the conference and my own research, I sort of knew that there's something to all this. So I said, what the heck? It's an important issue, and by me keeping quiet is not helping get the word out. So why not go public? And I did. I wrote a blog, and thinking that, I might not get another job in the industry, and people are going to look at me funny. But I was like, I don't care about any of that. And lo and behold, I still worked in the industry. People just some people thought, oh yeah, that's crazy Reuben doing his thing. And some people actually were genuinely interested and invited me to talk about the experiences or talk about the subject matter in more detail. And so I just went with it. And most people, especially now, 10 years later, people are, I think, more open to it than ever. And people have had their own sightings and experiences. And it's like almost everybody I've talked to has at least some point in their life, whether it was a full-on abduction or encounter scenario, temporary detainment encounter, or an actual just, quick, strange lights in the sky like I've seen. A lot of people have had these, and then it becomes it's just something that people don't really talk about that often. And then once you open up that can of worms, it seems we could talk for hours with each other. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been a fun ride. Not, just a few people here and there that really sort of, I guess, think or speak negatively about me speaking about the subject. And for those people, I respect where they're at, and I just don't put it in their face. I just don't talk about it when they're around as much.
Don't you love that?
I can't help it, though.
Reuben, don't you love that locker room talk, though, where you kind of get that stink eye from someone? Really, you're talking openly about this, and then the more you warm up to them, they just seem to keep asking questions, and after about 5-10 minutes, they kind of sheepishly open up. Well, I actually saw something too. Sure. I'm not sure what it was.
Absolutely.
How many conversations have you had that went exactly that way?
Oh, geez, I feel like I have those conversations every day. I don't know, at least every other day. The beauty of my industry is I'm on different sets and around, a lot of times I'm working with the same people, but a lot of times most of the time I'm actually working with a new group of people. So, you know, very, very soon, after a couple of days on set, if it's on a reoccurring thing on any particular project, people know quite quickly that I'm the UFO guy, and conversations strike up. And you know, on set there's a lot of downtime. You're waiting for lighting or different setups, and so we have some really interesting conversations. You know, off set. It's fascinating. It's a good time. So I love it.
Before we start getting heavily into disclosure tonight, I do want to ask you about Hollywood, because we have people in Hollywood who are seers and believers, and then we have people who are just part of the establishment. When it comes to UFOs, what is the scoop with some people being involved with it and wanting to learn more, and others who just say, you know what, I'm not risking my career and millions of dollars and movie roles for getting involved in anything like this?
You know, at this point, I don't think it's anybody thinking or feeling that they're going to be risking millions of dollars for getting into this. It's not really a taboo subject in Hollywood anymore, I don't think. I think it's just simply, is it something that people are going to be interested in or not? You know, Hollywood is like any other industry. It is driven by money, driven by numbers. And, you know, where's the audience at? Are people going to resonate with a film that has an alien subject matter, or an ET subject matter, or are they going to be more resonant with, you know, the latest Fast and Furious action film, or a combination of the both, you know? So I really think the execs in charge are really just looking at numbers and could care less if you tell them, you know, obviously if you tell them, well, this is based on a real story, then they might, you know, an eyebrow might come up and they're like, oh, okay, well, that's nice, but is it a good story? Is it going to make money? Our audience is going to be drawn to it. So I don't feel a segregation, so to say, of people who believe in UFOs and that's their thing, or there's a story out there that says, hey, this is it. It just really just comes down to numbers. And there's so many wacky beliefs in Hollywood with different people and ideas and, you know, religions and cults and everything else. You know, it's you know, if you're an ET believer, I don't think it really phases anybody anymore at this point.
No, the reason why I ask that is we see so many Hollywood movies depicting aliens and alien contact always being on a very malevolent level. And yet for many people, they've had positive interaction with this. And that's led the conspiracy theorists, Reuben, to come out and say, well, what does Hollywood, or video games for that matter, have to do with the UFO cover-up? Because I've actually read online in my own research, and I know many around here have as well, that strongly believe that it's part of the indoctrination, so that way when disclosure happens, people aren't as afraid of these creatures, allegedly, than they will be when they see them on a daily basis. What is your thoughts on that?
I do think there's some of that there, but I don't think it's on a conscious level. I don't think the producers and the directors and the writers are really consciously doing it, like think that far ahead and think, oh, you know, disclosure's coming, let's make a movie that's going to help raise the consciousness of the planet, or help make people more aware. So when these ETs actually land, you know, maybe there's an actual writer or one director out there that's his belief, but is it a shared collective belief and that's what's moving things going on? I don't think so. I think maybe there's a passionate writer that says, yeah, you know, I had these experiences and I'm going to write this into my movie and I'm going to put this out there. And then, or there's a group of writers who are interested in the subject matter and they start doing investigations and they interview people, and then they put their spin on it, and then that story goes to the higher up execs, and the execs are like, that's a great story, but you know what? It's going to make more money if we make it really malevolent and put in a bunch of explosions and death, and let's do that because that's going to make more money. So that's, I think, how these things are in steps, they're in processes. I don't think there's any collective group saying, let's do it this way. I think it probably happens in steps, and it's very compartmentalized, just like other industries and political systems and everything else, that these, by the time you get the final product, it's got it's not the original idea from the writer anyways. It's been twisted and turned. A classic example is the Fire in the Sky movie.
I was just going to bring that up.
Yeah, Travis Walton's story. Travis himself has said, that's not my story, and I know, what was it, Paul Davis, I believe he helped get that produced. And he said that, they're dealing with, these guys started on the ground level. Travis Walton had this amazing experience, brought in writers, right? But, it went through so many steps. If you hear their story of trying to get it out there, the executives, there's so many cooks in the kitchen, so to say, that it gets drastically warped. And who knows, maybe one of those cooks is a CIA operative who wants to distort the story a little bit for the, covert agenda that they've got going on, which could be completely different than what maybe somebody in the military has going on,
Mm-hmm.
And maybe somebody in the Navy actually wants the real story to come out, but they're, and they've got one of their guys on the scene, and the CIA's got their guys, and there's all these different players, and everybody's got a handler, and there's all this, stuff happening, and it's all these agendas, and everybody's trying to do their thing, and then you get the final product, and it's like nothing like what Travis Walton experienced, or not nothing, but very different. And so I think this is the typical scenario of Hollywood, and I don't think there's any one driving force to say this or that. I think there's a number of events and people and situations that we couldn't really put our finger on any one specific thing. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, but the reason why I asked that, and I was going to go into the Fire in the Sky example before you brought it up, Jordan Maxwell, who has been on this show, and anybody who's in the know on the UFO side of the conspiracy side knows who Jordan Maxwell is. Just this lonely man who, for some reason, has been chosen to be the apple in conspiracy theorists' eyes, where absolutely everybody and anybody of the who's who tells him things. And nobody knows why. Mm-hmm. Jordan doesn't even know why, that he's been the chosen one sort of thing. But he was telling me on this show almost 2 years ago now that he strongly believes that Hollywood is infiltrated, maybe not on a government level, but definitely on some sort of level to try and manipulate people's thoughts in regards to how Hollywood portrays extraterrestrials. It's like they want us to be angry about this.
Yeah, if you're talking, on that sort of esoteric, energetic, archetypal, draconian, reptilian, Illuminati kind of thing, yeah, I would agree. I would say, but I don't think a lot of those people that are sort of pushing forward those agendas, if you ask them, hey, this is very reptilian, and they're going to be like, what are you talking about? But, they're not in tune with their own archetypes, with their own energy that they're putting out there. Greed, control, power, the Illuminati symbol, with the eye on top, that sort of energetic archetype. I keep going back to archetypes because that's sort of the way I see things. Those people I don't think they're consciously aware that those energies are influencing their decisions. So I would agree with Jordan that there is, to a certain extent, those energies have infiltrated Hollywood. because, again, when it comes to money and power, which a lot of Hollywood is involved in, that sort of those sort of energies, then you're inviting that energy in, whether you're aware of it or not. You're simply executing your MO, which a lot of these people's MO is, to have power, to be, someone in the limelight and have that special edge over somebody else, to think that you are better than somebody else. And naturally, when you're immersed in that, then these nasty energies come out. And yeah, maybe they are manipulating, driving, steering the ship a specific way, unfortunately. But a lot of that's changing.
Do you think then that, say, when a movie about aliens is made, that there could be, and maybe even if you're assuming, I'm okay with that answer, but do you think, for education purposes, that if a movie about aliens comes out and say they want to make a benevolent movie about an extraterrestrial species, maybe another Close Encounters of the Third Kind or something along those lines, that the government really has any say on what is too real and what isn't? Because there was a time when Tom Clancy was alive that the CIA and the NSA actually went up to him and said, "Where did you get this information from? Like, you can't be writing about this." And he would say, "Well, I just went in the press. I'm writing what comes out of the newspapers and online stories." And in the meantime, they were trying to pin him on some sort of treason or conspiracy that he had insiders in the NSA and CIA. So I'm wondering if that's the same thing for Hollywood when it comes to movies.
A lot of writers who do their homework do go and interview people, and a lot of the stuff that comes out has to come out in the guise of fiction, right? It's not real but it actually is. If they were to put it out there as reality or based on a true story, then yeah, somebody's going to knock on their door. So I do think there are probably insiders who have come forward to talk to specific writers or people and say, "Look, I'll tell my story, but you gotta make it science fiction. You can't turn it into something real." So I think not a lot, but a fair number of our stories are coming to us in this fashion, in this form. So it's probably not that crazy that a lot of this science fiction actually turns into stuff that's, we're like, whoa, that seems very, even though that was like a crazy adventure, science fiction story, that really hits home. So, absolutely. And then on a positive note and on a negative note, negative note meaning that the disinformation side of, the stuff that leaks through. Again, all of that stuff, I think, on a conscious level, where you see the executives making the decisions and the distributors buying the movies and doing all that stuff, I don't think any of those people are aware of any of this. All of it's probably on a very subtle, nonchalant way, where the writer is having a very private meeting with an insider, where, maybe even the writer is having direct contact to an ET or something, but obviously can't put that out there and tell colleagues that, hey, I'm having these experiences. So maybe in the future, some writers will come open about their experiences, and who knows, maybe it just is what it is. But I do feel ultimately what resonates with the audience is what keeps the demand for these things coming. So ET films or UFO ET related films seem to be the highest grossing films at the box office consecutively year after year, any kind of ET related subject matter. So I think that goes to show that there's something in our collective consciousness that that keeps pulling people back to the box office to see these stories, whether they're malevolent or benevolent. So it's fun to watch, and I just got off working on Star Trek fan series that I go in and I work from time to time on. And it's so much fun. It's so much fun pretending to be, on a starship in outer space and interacting with different aliens. We can ask for anything more.
Do you think the perfect alien or UFO subjected movie has been created yet? Something that you would like to see Hollywood do differently because you're involved with this, or maybe something that you would work on to maybe try and pitch? What would that be?
Well, I haven't seen. I'm hearing good things about this new movie that just came out. What's it called? Where the woman, she's like a translator.
Yes.
Are you familiar? What's it called?
Oh goodness, on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, I'm sure probably one of your listeners is gonna shoot us a quick message in there. But this movie, I'm anxious to see. I think I'll probably go see it this weekend. Last weekend it was either that or Doctor Strange, and I'm a fan of that world, so I chose Doctor Strange first. But yeah, that movie, I'm hearing good things about it. I'm hearing it's not your typical malevolent ET sucking the blood out of everybody type of story. I hear it's actually got some
The Arrival.
The Arrival. There we go.
Thank you, Lisa, in the chat room.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. I hear it actually has some real, legit, honest to goodness, good stuff in it. So I'm anxious to see it. But, as far as so far movies that I've seen, the classic E.T., Spielberg's E.T., Close Encounters, these are all great films. Off the top of my head, whenever you're put in these positions, your mind goes blank. But obviously, I'm not a little biased, but Avatar was a wonderful alien film. But let's see, I don't know. Can I think? There was something, Interstellar. What a great film that was. Even though there weren't necessarily ETs in it, there were sort of interdimensional concepts and ideas. But yeah, Steven Spielberg's AI, right? That was a good one. So yeah, I mean, there's quite a few good ones out there that sort of portray Star Trek, obviously, that portray the ETs not so much as this malevolent, blood-sucking, doomsday kind of scenario, but there's actually some good stuff going on with some of these films.
So when you start to look at the political side of movies, of the conspiracy, when it comes to extraterrestrials and UFOs, and we're going to get into next hour, get into a lot of the citizen hearings that you were a part of as well. Do you believe then that all this type of influence that we see with, as you said, alien type movies or UFO type movies being hot box office smashes when it comes to profit, do you see the public responding to everything and maybe looking into these topics a little bit more because it is becoming so prevalent not only on the big screen but on the little screen as well, with a lot of television shows and documentaries?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we keep making these movies for a reason. Hollywood does, they make money. That's the number one, driving factor. But the reason they're making money is, like I was saying earlier, there's something in the collective consciousness that keeps us going back. It's entertaining. It's something that hits home. And we should recognize that. We should say, hey, wait a minute. Why are films in this genre and these ideas, why are they so popular? Of course, they're making money, but why? Why compared to another film, another concept, another idea? These things seem to make, again, highest grossing genre of all the genres. So there's something in the collective that holds true and truth, whether, even though it's put into this idea of the guise of science fiction, there is a truth to this all. And that's, that's where we can get into the next hour. But, that's sort of where I went from science fiction, fantasy, performer or writer, producer into actual documentary filmmaker, because I felt like the truth was more fantastic than the science fiction. And it's a lot more exciting when you can actually see it in those terms, when you can say, wait, this is real. I could make up a bunch of stuff and it still wouldn't be as entertaining as some of the stuff some of the experiences people are having, and the whistleblowers that are coming forward and telling their stories. You're like, holy, that you can't even make up that stuff. It's so grandiose and just mind blowing. So I don't know. I'm probably going around the question a little bit, but maybe you can help me get back on track.
No problem. It's more along the lines of, do we see the public starting to all of a sudden maybe put two and two together? We got a lot of UFO documentaries on television on channels like Sci-Fi and History and Discovery. Yeah. Hollywood makes a mint off of any UFO film it does. People are seeing lights in the sky because of the internet and YouTube. We see a lot more amateur film on it, whether it's CGI or not. I mean, UFOs are, I believe, number 2 to pornography on internet searches. And, there's a genuine interest in all of this. Do you think the public is becoming more aware as much as the government continues to try and play, we don't know nothing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be, it's inevitable. And I think most of our government agencies sort of know that it's inevitable, that it's not, you can't, disclosure is coming no matter what. And you can't, I think right now it's just about the powers that be. How long can they milk the cow before it dies? I don't know if that's a good term to use, but how long can we just keep the shenanigans going? And, the ones that are in power, probably getting older, and they're like, at least for the rest of my lifetime, let me just milk this cow until it dies, and then we'll move on. But until then, let's just keep it going, where the rest of the world is like, enough already. Where, we know this, we need to disclose, we need to have these conversations, we need to just move on already. But, not the entire world is in the same headspace as we are, for thousands of years, through systematic programming, religions, cultures, ideas, dogmas, we've been told the world is a specific way, and, beings from other dimensions and realities don't exist. Some of our other cultures, on the other hand, have been quite open to the idea and are very matter of fact about it. But the Western public, coming from Europe and sort of going down that evolutionary chain, is sort of just said, no, it's not, believing in those things is not going to, keep us paying our taxes and all the other things that go along with a limited belief system. So, we're sort of stuck in this transitionary period right now, unfortunately. But it is transitioning very fast. Since I've been in it, since 2007, what a huge shift. And we're right in the middle of this big shift right now within, I would say within the next maybe 5 to 10 years, disclosure would be quite possible. It's no longer so far off. When you're in it every day, sometimes you're like, why haven't they landed? Come on, this is ridiculous. But you have to step back for a minute and look at the rest of, the human race, the rest of the populace. And we've come a long way in 10 years, but, in my eyes, I think we still got a long ways to go. Not that far, but we still got some time before disclosure, so to say. I wouldn't jump the gun and say, oh, it's going to happen tomorrow. It could, anything is possible, but I think the last thing the ETs want is to create so much havoc that we would end up, they wouldn't really have a place to land. So it's all about timing and sort of adjusting and seeing where the human collective is at. And I think in our day-to-day happenings, we can gauge through social events and elections and legalization of certain, things, gay marriage, women's voting rights, Black Lives Matter, Standing Rock, pot being legal federally or on a state level. All of these things are sort of gauges to see what is humanity, what is the United States, where are they at on specific issues, and are they going to freak out? Are they going to riot in the streets? We recently had an election, and there's riots in the streets. Can you imagine if disclosure has been announced tomorrow? What would that do? What would that do for our nation, and what would that do for our people? And I think the ETs have a pretty good gauge on where we are at collectively and individually, and that's why on an individual basis, people are having contact every day, more and more, all the time. But collectively, are we ready for it? Some would argue yes, and some would argue no.
And that's a huge topic that we got to get into after our break here, as we're only about 3 minutes away from our first break of the night. Curious what you think of the work Tom DeLonge is doing, the former Blink-182 lead singer, who has just jumped 2 feet into the UFO pool and just gone blaze of glory with it. Do you think he's taken a dangerous slope, or do you think he's just hitting it hard because he's using his celebrity status to be able to do so?
I think he's a little bit of both. Absolutely. I mean, when you're going down the avenues he's going and meeting with the people, I'm sure there's some danger involved. But I'm all for it, and hats off for what he's doing and using that status to sort of get the word out. I'm in no way anywhere near in the popularity range that he is, but for the same reasons, I guess I feel like, okay, I've got somewhat of a following, and I feel almost my duty. I've been given this information and or not given, received these experiences, and share it and get it out there and talk about it and create the conversations. And that's the only way we're going to sort of move along and get into a disclosure setting. So what he's doing, I am super stoked, and he's having the conversations. He's getting in deep and talking to whistleblowers and military officials. His WikiLeaks emails to Podesta were in a honorable effort. The latest WikiLeaks coming from Podesta sort of give me a whole new perspective on what kind of guy Podesta is, or was, or whatever. So I'm not so sure he was barking up the right tree there, but and I'm just talking about all the craziness that came out a week before before the election a couple weeks ago, with all the the spirit cooking and weird goofiness and child pornography type stuff. Which if you look into that, I don't know if your audience or if you're aware of that, but I think everyone should look into that because there seems to be some legitimacy there. So obviously that's not Tom DeLonge had nothing to do with that and not making any connections there. I'm just saying that maybe he was barking up the wrong tree. And I think a lot of us in the disclosure movement were barking up the wrong tree because, Podesta in his email tweets had stated that he was sort of for disclosure, and we all resonated with that. Yeah, somebody in a higher government position is actually listening, or has the potential to listen, or is even vaguely interested in what this movement is. So we're all going to go to that, Edgar Mitchell including. But now, maybe we can see now that's, there's more than meets the eye, obviously, with these higher official folks.
Absolutely. And Reuben, I'm going to get you to wrap it up there because we're going to be encroaching here on our break. There it is. Reuben Langdon is our guest. We're discussing disclosure tonight on the mighty SOR. We'll be back after this break with more disclosure talk.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, news director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries, so tune in at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report, and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest. from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Have you ever had an extraterrestrial experience? One you just couldn't explain? Well, maybe I can help. Hello, I am Samantha Mullet. On the second Tuesday of each month, I will join Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio to bring a human aspect to ET contact. It's something I've lived with my entire life, and I'd love to help you understand. Let's share our experiences. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of each month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Rivulet Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrr.wix.com/rivuletrr&r.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium, Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Do you have a topic or a guest that you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Let us know at spacedoutradio.com, where you can sign up to become a Space Traveler member today. Or you can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you along for the ride as we kick off hour number 2. We want to say thank you to the United Public Radio Network live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 160 countries around the world. We are your nighttime show. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of it. I hear a lot of you are liking what we are doing. Thank you, Joe and the team at UPRN, for bringing us in. If you're a listener on Revolution Radio, it is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Do us a favor. Visit freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight. If you're an SOR space traveler, you know what to do with it. Boustrophodon. Boustrophodon is your password. Or Boustrophodon. I think it's Boustrophodon. Let's call it that. Either way, that's the password for tonight. You know what to do with it if you are using it. And if you're not an SOR Space Travelers member just yet, well, you're SOL on getting to know the true meaning behind the password. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, for the archives. Same as on TuneIn, and you can download this show and others on iTunes. Visit our website, spacedoutradio.com. While there, you can check up on my latest blog, read up on the SOR Space Wire, listen to some great music from Bumblefoot, our resident guitar god, and if you've had an experience you just can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our intrepid investigator, Mike Schmidt, is waiting for you. Tonight, we are talking disclosure. with Reuben Langdon. His website, ReubenLangdon.com. He's not only a stuntman in Hollywood, but he's really up on the whole disclosure project, took part in the citizens' hearings. Welcome back, Reuben. Good to have you along for the full show tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Love it.
Right before the break, we were talking about Tom DeLonge, former lead singer of Blink-182, and what he has done. Do you think that when a name such as him all of a sudden becomes very hard-hitting on the Disclosure Project, where he's talking with generals and former military generals, and John Podesta he's emailing, he's got George Knapp in his back pocket, do you think that makes people in other government agencies a little weary?
Possibly, possibly for those who want to keep it under wraps. But at this point, I sort of have my own theory. I have a theory that things are, the only reason it's still a secret is not because people want it a secret. It's because of the rules that that institutions have created, the compartmentalization of governments have created this set of rules that says it has to be this way, and nobody is afraid to go, or everybody is afraid to go outside of that system. So it's almost like the system has created this way, this, even though everybody wants to get out of the system, they're sort of trapped in the system because they've created the system to be the system. So it's not that one individual is like the grand puppet master pulling all the strings. I think it's just people signed up for this grandiose, thing, and they can't get out of it. So Tom DeLonge, the citizen hearing, shows like yours are, and the people themselves are the ones that have to break the spell, so to say, because those in it can't, they're so caught up in it, and they're so caught in the belief system that they can't break it, that it won't, that nothing's going to happen. So I honestly think there are more people in the system that want disclosure to happen, that want to talk about it, but because they've taken the oath, they've signed up for this military project or this government thing, and they've sworn an oath to, whatever it is they swore it to, this imaginary idea that, the country is this, and this idea that the structure and the powers that be are this thing, which it's all sort of crumbling now in front of us. But they're stuck in it. So they're talking to guys like Tom. They're talking to the other whistleblowers that have already come forward and that, that haven't had any major negative ramifications, that seem to still be alive and ticking. And that's how this is sort of happening. It's crumbling apart from the outside in, as opposed from the inside out. I mean, there are the insiders that are coming out, but very slowly. And I don't think it can be one decision, one guy that says, okay, it's all going to happen now, because of the construct of this, almost like how do I say? It's almost like the reverse of a virus. How a virus eats away at something, and we're sort of like the reverse of that. We have to reverse whatever the virus is. I don't know. Am I making any sense? I'm going out there a little bit, reaching, but this is sort of where my ideas and my beliefs are starting to go after being in this for so long. I feel like I don't think, a lot of people think the president has the power, and he just doesn't. He just is. I think Obama's a good guy in his heart, but the dude is just so powerless and probably clueless to what's really going on. It's just ridiculous. Sorry, it's getting late. I'm getting cynical.
Oh, that's all right, though. That's very much all right. But this also ties in with Tom DeLonge having, according to WikiLeaks, email conversations with John Podesta. John Podesta, as we know, is a very, very big supporter and proponent of UFO disclosure. How do you think...
And look how far we've gotten. Even when a guy, who is Obama's advisor, the head chairman of the Hillary campaign, even this guy, if he's such a big proponent, we still haven't gotten any news. He hasn't gotten anything. He says, his big tweet when he left office was his biggest regret. It was he wasn't able to get the files out. Really, how much power does this guy have? Really, how much in the know is he in? And I think they even said he made, this is back when he was with Bill's administration, that he was making calls and he was trying to figure out what's going on. And then he got, the phone was slammed, or he was, phone calls were made, and, a voice came on and said, sorry, you're not in the need to know. And he goes, what do you mean I'm not in the need to know? And then they hung up on the other end. So, the people who are in charge of what's happening and the whole thing, none of them are in the forefront, is I guess what I'm saying. We don't, the American public, the world, humanity is being told a completely different story than what's happening on the other side, is the way I see it. And we don't, and Tom and what he's doing, and he's talking to whistleblowers, but to go after government in the standardized way of, how we set things up initially, to, go through the court system and to go through all this. This is why I realized this after the citizen hearing. When I was doing the citizen hearing, I thought, okay, this is it. We're going to make a real difference here. And then I realized the only difference we're going to make is we're going to put a lot of credible witnesses in a very palatable format for the general public to take. But is it actually going to do anything in governments? Is it actually going to create ripples? To a certain extent, yes. What Tom is doing, yes. These are all great efforts, and it is doing something. But ultimately, these guys in our government offices, in our officials, and, you probably heard this term all the time, but they are just puppets. They don't know what's going on. They, our Congress members that we had, the 6 former members of Congress, all said they're not in the need to know either. They get all this stuff that they have to sign off on, these black budgets, these huge budgets that just say black budgets and sign at the dotted line, and then next, and trillions of dollars go to who knows? They don't know. They can't audit it. They can't. If they ask, they're told they're not in the need to know, and then moving on. So, this is coming straight from government officials. They don't know what's going on behind the scenes, where all this money is going, where all this black budget crazy stuff is happening, and so how do you solve a problem when you don't even know what the problem is? I guess. We can guess. We know disclosure is a problem. We know that's there, but to the extent and what degree, and all of the webbings and spider webs that's been created from the different events that we've had, from Roswell to Rendlesham to all of the other, Area 51 and Bob Lazar, and there's so many cases out there that are just blips from the dot that are intricate, that all make up pieces of this intricate webbing that we only get to see a fraction of what's really going on. Secret space programs, whether it's to the extent of the Corey Good story or not, who knows? But what if it is all as grandiose as Corey describes? And I don't know if you're familiar with Corey Good stuff,
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So I mean, who knows? I mean, that's going in a whole other direction. But I do believe, whether he's right or not, I do believe that behind the scenes there's a very intricate web that we just don't even get a taste of. Like it goes deep.
And the reason why we all know it goes deep is because maybe, just maybe, there is something truthful to the whole conspiracy of Eisenhower meeting with aliens in 1964 or 54 in California during what was supposed to be a golfing vacation. And that opens up a whole different can of worms. But when it comes to John Podesta, let's stay current with this for the time being, because I think John Podesta, for some unknown reason, is someone who could play such a fantastic role in the whole disclosure movement, because he was pressing it from the inside. Why do you think the media has never taken what John Podesta says in regards to extraterrestrials and UFO disclosure seriously?
Well, has he really, other than the few comments that he's made, has he really pushed it? I mean, we don't know. From all the WikiLeaks emails that we've seen, he hasn't responded to Edgar Mitchell. There's been no smoking gun email that says he's been actually doing anything. He was potentially going to have meetings with Tom. And I may not be fully in the know of this, but at least from what I've seen so far, he was potentially going to meet with Edgar, but there's no real smoking gun evidence that says he was actually engaging and actually having conversations with these people and actually even taking strides to move to give them a voice. Other than the couple of tweets here and there, the one time he says we need to get to the bottom of the files shortly after the Rockefeller Initiative. I don't know. I don't necessarily think he, one, knew a lot, and two, did a lot. I think he was just as curious as the rest of us. And maybe when he went knocking on those doors, like I said, he got shut down and he just wanted to know more, like the rest of us. I don't think he had so much information. And I think probably Obama, and I think of many of the others in higher positions that are in the limelight, that we can actually see, have access to any more information than the rest of us have. I think maybe somebody, when Obama gets briefed, RET's real, maybe they kind of say you're not in the need to know, or maybe they say, maybe they say yes, but you can't talk about that, or who knows. But I don't think they're in the know. I think Eisenhower obviously was in the know, and I think Kennedy knew some stuff. But that was probably the last of the presidents that actually knew anything. Carter wasn't there that some story that Carter
he had a sighting
stuff, and he had a sighting, but then he went and met with one of the CIA guys and he came out crying or something. I don't remember, something like that.
Well, Jimmy used to cry about anything, so
he's a passionate guy. But yeah, so I don't think, and then I think this is how they've rigged the game, so to say, is if we don't know anyone who knows, then nobody's going to know. You know what I mean? It's like we assume the president has some information. We assume these people in these higher positions have more information than we do. But you know what? Most of them don't. Mm-hmm. That's my take after being in it. And it's sort of kept that way. That's why I said the game is rigged. And the people who want to talk because of their oaths can't. And the people who actually know anything are just not even in our reality. They're not even there. They're unreachable, untouchable. almost like they're in another dimension, even though they're not. But, sort of that idea that they don't exist. So what happens is the dog chases its tail, goes in circles and circles and circles. And I think that's what this government political, Steve Bassett thing is, just the dog chasing its tail, and it's never going to happen until the system itself collapses or is greatly redefined and redone, and I think that's what's happening on a independent level. Like I said, disclosure is happening on the outside. The independent experiencers, people who are having every day, there's disclosure happening on a daily basis. And for us to rely on government to tell us the truth, there is no truth. The truth is that they don't know. The truth is that they're just chasing, oil and fossil fuels and going into the money game and, playing those silly things. And in their eyes, just like we were talking about Hollywood earlier, ETs are irrelevant. They could care less. That's not even part of their consciousness, their awareness. If ETs are real, it doesn't matter. It's not going to affect me. I've got to sell my stuff. I've got to, make my $1 billion on whatever I'm going to do here, and that's all that matters. So it's completely irrelevant. Where the rest of the world is like, wait a minute, well, no, we're tired of, hurting the environment, destruction of our people's rights, and everything else is being stripped away. We need to evolve. We need to thrive as a species, and we need to wake up to this fact. But it's like almost two different worlds trying to coexist in one reality, and it hasn't been working very well. And we're sort of getting further and further apart, where that world is going deeper into that world of nonsense world, and then the rest of us are sort of like, you know what, screw you. Almost like this whole idea that the states are going to go independent from, succeed from the union together thing. The independency of the individual people, they're creating their own disclosure. There's UFO ET meetup groups. There's, and this is sort of how everything from civil rights to legalized marijuana is sort of happened anyways. And that's why I said keep your eye on these subject matters earlier, is because I truly believe that's how we're going to solve these problems. And yes, the occasional whistleblower that pops up before the hammer comes down on them is sort of feeding the rest of us what we need to keep this going. The experiencers, the people on the ground level that things are actually happening. This is what's motivating this movement of people going into this direction, where we're not going to rely on government. We're not going to put all our eggs in that basket. So I have almost the exact opposite approach to Bassett in his modalities. Again, not saying that that's a bad thing. Absolutely, attack it from every angle that you could possibly attack it from. But honestly, the way I believe and the way I see disclosure happening is it's going to happen from the outside in, from the bottom up, not from the top down.
Well, the reason why I ask you about the media versus John Podesta, and I realize he hasn't come out. There are certain things he cannot say. Let's just be truthful and honest. And I'm sure he's chomping at the bit to open up once his security clearance finally clears forever, if he decides to stay out of the political game. But when you set out a tweet like he did, you mentioned it earlier, back on February 13th, 2015, that his biggest regret was not securing the hashtag disclosure, which was Steve Bassett's disclosure hashtag, which I found kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. He is basically, and it's a journalist's job to learn how to read between the lines. Basically what he is saying is, people, I know there's the files there on UFOs. I can't get them. So right now, John Podesta, even though he's not elected, is the highest ranking official in the world to come out and say that UFOs are real. And yet the media, which should be jumping on this story because aliens above are literally the second biggest story next to Jesus Christ himself coming down from the heavens in mankind's history. And the media did nothing with it. Really, the only media outlet that was working this, trying to get more information, was the Huffington Post. But in your opinion, are you like me, where you were questioning where was CNN, where was Fox, where was NBC,
No, I don't.
ABC?
I don't question any of those agencies anymore, because I already know they're bought and paid for by the same people that are creating the whole game, anyways. So the idea that the media is actually going to do anything is absurd. And we know this. We know this clearly now from the whole DNC fiasco, from the election fiasco. We know, if it's not clear to the general public now, I don't know how much clearer it could be. But for the U.S. and for the world to rely on mainstream media to get their actual news, for them to actually do real journalism, is absurd at this point. It's so laughable. And it's so proven now, tried and proven. When we have WikiLeaks, when we have the Panama Papers, when we have, all of this, shows that are doing real journalistic reporting on real things, real issues, that the mainstream media won't cover at all. We know the elections were rigged, and Snowden got some media attention when he first came out, but after that, and again, that was The Guardian and Huffington Post, and look at Standing Rock, for Christ's sakes. The biggest story on the planet right now, and how much of the mainstream media is actually covering that?
That's a great example. That's a great example.
Exactly.
And let me fill you in on this as you bring up that example. In the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker right now, there is a big debate going on in a friendly way about what's the proper way to protest. And here we have the people who are defending fresh water and the right to clean water, saying and standing there saying you can't cross. We're protesting, but they're not doing anything violent. And on the other side, you have guns, you have riot gear, you have tanks, you have all sorts of mechanized weaponry that should be in the army, that shouldn't be on a police force, right there. And you look at it and you're like, what's the protocol for protesting anymore? What is the protocol?
I stand with Standing Rock in the fact that they are upholding, ideals that were pushed forward by Gandhi and Martin Luther King. Nonviolent protest. It shouldn't even be called protest. Water protectors. And, Einstein said you can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that created it. So if you're going to go in there fighting, kicking, and screaming, and, there's no way you're going to win, especially against a militarized police force with tanks and, air support and everything else. You're asking for some major ass whooping. The way they are doing it, it's beautiful. To me, it's the biggest story on the planet. To see how they are standing together for what they believe in, which is also happens to be, just life. They believe in life. They believe in protecting the planet. To see how tribes and people from around the world are collecting there, are coming together. They put aside differences, for thousands of years, warring tribes that didn't get along, have all now have come together. This is why this is the biggest story on the planet right now. And they're standing for what we all inherently know is the absolute right thing to do, to protect our planet and our environment. And the mainstream media, and this has been going on since May, and the mainstream media has barely touched it. Barely. I think like the big things is the thing they say, in Standing Rock, several protesters are using Facebook check-in points to throw police off. That's like their extent of the reporting. It's not like actually talking about anything of substance. But yes, going back to the whole media thing, it's absurd that we have that people even watch TV. I don't even know at this point. If it weren't for shows like yours, social media, this is the new way to get our media. Twitter, people on the ground actually saying this is what's happening, as opposed to the BS that we're fed on a daily basis. We know, going back to your audience's arguments, look at every other type of protest, Black Lives Matter, where people are killing people. That's riots. It's not. People are just more people going to die. There are police officers who are turning in their badges. I think 2 days ago, a number of Wisconsin sheriffs said we're leaving. This is ridiculous. Not only is the whole act of them being there illegal and immoral, but when you're beating down someone and that someone is telling you that they love you, and you're beating them, macing them, and ripping them away from their land, that is power. That is true power. So I stand by what they're doing. I stand by the Martin Luther King Gandhi laws of nonviolent interaction. Again, the protest word, I'm not a fan of that, but I think what they're doing is very special, and I think what they're doing is, and I think one of the reasons why the mainstream media is not covering it, because once it is covered by the mainstream and goes viral, and a lot of the stuff it's the biggest lesson to humanity, to show the rest of the world how to operate. And that's what's happening. And I think it's going to continue to escalate until the world wakes up and says, wow, that is something else right there. So maybe that's why it's been created. Maybe some divine force has created this Avatar story, right? It's Avatar without the violence. I love it. Sorry to go off on that tangent.
I think it was a great tangent to go off, because let's face it, there is an issue here. There is an issue with the government in a capitalistic / democracy that they seem to be playing bully with the rights of everyday people. And that is not okay with a lot of people. People are starting to learn that we're allowed our say. We're the ones who voted you in. How is my voice less than the lobbyists?
Actually, we didn't vote them in, but that's a whole other story.
Well,
when you look at the DNC rigging election, the rigging fraud, and all of the stuff that this is pre-Donald Trump, Hillary, the Bernie Sanders Hillary election thing, and shown over and over again how much rigging fraud goes on with the
you're gonna make me vent on that, because when I see all these Hillary supporters, protesting the election of Donald Trump, my first question that I ask any of them online is, why are you protesting the president who won the election legally? and not protesting against your own party who rigged the election for Hillary to run, because Bernie,
exactly,
all statistics prove that Bernie would have beat Donald 2-1 up to 3-1, and you would have Bernie Sanders
why weren't
in
people
there.
rioting then? Why weren't people rioting then?
Exactly.
So, yeah, there's no excuse, Hillary supporters. It's look, the system is in major need for a major overhaul. The electoral, I'm not probably not pronouncing it right. It's late. What do they call it? The whole electoral, it's not even up to the voters. The popular vote versus the, all the other guys. She lost because of that. Obviously, the popular vote that says they would have won, but realistically, how many people actually voted? Less than 50% of the people actually voted. The system itself it's done. We're ready to throw in the towel and start over. And I think to bring it back to the whole disclosure thing, I think all of these things need to get sorted out, because if you drop the disclosure bomb right now, wow, would people go nuts? Maybe it's the icing on the cake. Maybe it's the thing that people really need to and what else can be completely, my entire reality is falling apart as I know it. The media's rigged, I'm just talking about people who are just waking up to this fact, probably, I've known this for years, but, the media's rigged. They're all biased. They only report on certain things. The elections are rigged. Our food is tainted with glyphosate, and our seeds are being manipulated and patented. And there's fluoride in the water. There's all of these things that go on and on for list and list and list. The latest, which is blowing my mind, is this whole spirit cooking craziness with Podesta, his brother, and and other close Hillary supporters, which doesn't blow my mind anymore. And I've heard stories from my buddy Sean Stone, who is part of the Skull and Bones, and he goes deep, and you had what's his name? We were just talking about him on your show, talking about the Illuminati and those sort of nasty things that go on in politics and in the entertainment industry. And Jordan Maxwell, sorry, wonderful guy, and his stuff. So all of this stuff is being exposed. The onion layers are being pulled away, and there's more. We're getting more data drops on a daily basis. Anonymous has been putting out some really good information about the whole. We just diverted World War III with by the Trump election, and even though people haven't been able to connect all the stats yet, but there's a lot to all of this, and we're working it out. It's great. You have to. It all has to come to the surface before we can, really. And we have to accept one another, and we have to sort of work things out, and become one species in a new world order, so to say, but not the Kabbalistic idea of one ultimate power. But all of us have to sort of get along as one on this planet before ETs are going to spring up. I think that's what all this is. This is all like a prep for the big disclosure day, and we're working it out. It's great. It's good to see all this stuff. The light is being shined on all of these dark, nasty things that we've been sort of hiding as a society and individually for so long. That we're not collectively, we're not going to put up with this. Certain, we're just like, not on my watch. Standing Rock, not on my watch. You're not going to screw with my water anymore. This is ridiculous. Look at all the death and destruction that's come from pipelines being built and oil spills destroying the planet, toxic chemicals being sprayed on our food supplies. Not anymore. Guess what? I can, for a fraction of the cost in a cargo, one of those cargo containers, I can grow all the food I need to feed my entire block organically with, 1/100th of the amount of water. All of these ways, these innovative ways of innovation and thriving and doing things, it's all coming out right now, and we're all figuring it out. We're all sort of figuring out that the way we've been doing things is not going to sustain us as a human race. And it's amazing to see the innovation, the wake-ups, the realizations, and that's all I post every day. I post like these new, Bitcoin just popped up on my feed. The Bitcoin cryptocurrencies, the all-seeing eye is gone. Those days are done. There's no more of this one ultimate power that's going to keep everybody enslaved. We're all taking back and empowering ourselves, and it's amazing to see.
So when it comes to John Podesta and Hillary Clinton, John was pushing Hillary for disclosure. Hillary admitted it publicly.
Yeah.
Do you think that without her election now, it's pretty much put the whole disclosure movement back on the back burner?
I think it's always been on the back burner. I don't think. I think you have to look at the Clinton agenda, right? The Clinton. Look at all the ties that they have. What, other than making appealing to the UFO crowd, right? Other than that, what do they have to gain? And let me rephrase that. Other than appealing to the UFO crowd and getting their support by sort of stringing them along, and so to say. But what do they actually have to gain by disclosing the UFO presence? They have nothing to lose. We know they're tied to Saudi Arabia, which is major oil. We know they're backing fracking and the oil industries and all of the other destructive chaos that grand corporate ties and all these other things. And all of those companies, energy companies, have only to lose by disclosing the ET presence. And we know through the Citizen Hitting and all the other researchers that basically the whole reason, one of the main reasons that disclosure hasn't happened is because of energy, because of big oil. Because as soon as we figure out there's another way of life outside of the oil game, which we're discovering not even through zero-point energies, but just through cheap solar and wind and renewables. So they're already losing the game in that sense. Then we don't even have to disclose an ET presence and discover these other technologies. But the Clinton Foundation and all of its ties and all of its corporate ties are all connected to oil. And we're seeing this directly through the WikiLeaks emails, through the exposure of the Clinton Foundation's books, and and the mainstream has lightly touched on that a little bit, but we're really prying into all the dirty, nasty stuff that's been going on over the years with the Clintons, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So ask yourself, truly, what do the Clintons have to gain from disclosure? Absolutely nothing. So do you think they would actually disclose? Or do you think they're just simply throwing little nuggets out there to keep people chasing the tails? To keep people say, hey, I'll drop a little UFO word over here because those UFO people will get those votes. We'll get their support. Doesn't mean we actually have to do anything. But yeah, that's a big crowd, and that crowd's growing every day. So yeah, they're smart people. They know how to get things done. But they're that smart that they would be very stupid to actually disclose an ET presence, especially under their power, under their, if they're pulling the strings and moving things about. Now, the great thing about Donald Trump is he's not so smart. And if he found out ETs were real, he would probably announce it. So I'm actually thinking he's probably a better candidate for disclosure than any of our other presidents in the past. I think Kennedy, obviously. But, and who knows? He may not be disclosure president. Who knows what's going to happen there? But I honestly, truly think that Podesta, the Hillary, the Clinton machine is all just smoke and mirrors. Mm-hmm. And for us to put our faith into that and to actually think, oh, they're going to do something, it's just that lip service that we've been getting since day one. It's not, think logically. If you're in their position and you're, an evil warlord, controlling and manipulating the Middle East, it's the first time I heard that we might even actually get out. With Trump in power, we actually might get out of the Middle East. Wouldn't that be amazing? And the whole reason the whole thing is happening anyways, controls over gas pipelines, Syria, Iran, and this whole scare of Iran has nuclear weapons and we got to go and blow them up and do all that stuff. It's all about energy, people. It's all about gas pipelines and oil and the petrodollar. And if we get rid of the petrodollar, then guess what? The power shifts from those global elites, those families that are there right now, and it actually starts to shift. And that's what's happening. It's breaking up. Russia's taken their chunk. China's taken their chunk. It's all breaking it all up into little chunks. And then maybe the rest of the world, since there's no global one world hierarchy over the world's energy, then maybe independently, India can get their free energy thing going that they're trying to do because they don't have the cabal breathing down their neck every second. And we can start to, and other alternative energy things that are there and ready to go and have been for decades can actually move forward, and we can actually get into a world where we're not tied to oil. And then disclosure could happen, thank God.
So what you're saying?
Sorry,
I'm
think very pessimistic when it comes to Podesta and his emails. I really think all that was just barking up the wrong tree.
So you think they were pulling the wool over everybody who wants disclosure's eyes, even Stephen Bassett, who really thought there was something to this.
Especially Stephen Bassett.
I've had Stephen on this show a couple of times, and he just wants this so bad. I don't want to call him gullible because I think he's smarter than that, but I do want to say that I think every time they give him a little piece of cheese, he thinks he's getting the brick. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I know Stephen very well. We were colleagues, no longer anymore, but we were. And, it's very admirable what he's doing, what he has been doing all these years. He's been really pushing hard, and he's doing it in the way that he believes is going to happen. And we all do. That's what we all do. We all do what we think is best. We have an idea of what's the best thing to do, and we all follow our passions and follow our desires, and he's doing what he thinks is best. But unfortunately, over the years, he's created his whole persona around disclosure. He's the political disclosure guy. So he thrives on any nugget that's out there that may be in the public, a tweet here, a little mention there, a Jimmy Kimmel, guest here, and the little nugget that's going to be thrown, then he can use that and say, look, everybody, look, it's real. It's happening. Here it is. And he can use that as fuel to further his agenda. Not that he's intentionally trying to, manipulate or mislead anyone in any particular direction. I don't think he's doing that by any means. But I do feel, like you said, he's gullible. He's gullible in the sense that he's going to take anything he can get and say, look, they're doing this over here, they're doing that over. Oh, Edgar Mitchell, the WikiLeaks. And a lot of people did that. I even did that. I looked at WikiLeaks. What did WikiLeaks prove? Absolutely nothing. That other than Podesta might have been having some conversations with some people, but even then we don't have any real smoking gun from Podesta because he never replied to any of the emails. He got sent a lot of emails. So, it's all too early. And people who think disclosure is going to happen tomorrow, it's not going to happen tomorrow. Again, if it's not going to come from the top up. Not according to my sources, and not according to logic, not according to the evidence. When you look at the collective body of evidence, when you get in these people's shoes and you look at, what benefits does it have for President Obama to disclose the ET presence before he leaves office? Don't you think he would stop the pipeline in Standing Rock before he would do that? He would go down in history as the worst president if he actually did disclosure, because there would be so much rioting and so much chaos. If you haven't read Richard Dolan and Bryce Zabel's AD After Disclosure, do it, because that's a very accurate depiction of what's probably going to happen when we get to that day. It's not pretty, folks.
Why do you call it not pretty?
Well, initially, it's not pretty. There's a lot of people who aren't ready for that type of information. And it's going to destabilize the current system, which is let me rephrase that. I think it's beautiful. I think it's amazing. But it's not pretty in the sense that it's very disruptive. When we see disruptive technologies like robots, people are fearful for their jobs. A lot of people get riots. For example, just look at the Trump election thing, right? People leaving, walking out. And that was nothing. That was just he's not even in power yet. He has no power authority, and people are all upset. It's like, wait a minute, hold on. Let's wait until he actually starts implementing some of these crazy ideas, and then we can start getting upset. But they're just ideas and concepts, and people are getting all upset. And we don't even know, between now and then, who knows what the guy could happen. So I'm just saying that disclosure itself, it's a big, for a lot of people, it's a big deal. A lot of people who don't even believe in ETs, it's a big deal. It's going to disrupt a lot of belief systems. I think, like in Dolan's book, the stock market's going to crash. A lot of chaos is going to happen initially on the planet. And to drop that bomb on your way out of the presidency, especially when you're a president that's so tied to oil and gas and everything else, that is the last thing this guy's going to do.
And I think we need to spend some time talking about the public here for a moment, because I'm with you, and we only got about 3 minutes left here before we got to go to break. But
okay,
and that's a quick 2 hours, man. Very quick. 2 minutes here.
It went by pretty quick.
But in the next hour, I would love to get in a little bit deeper into why you think the public isn't ready, because I've had a lot of people on this show come up to me and say, oh, the public is ready, the public needs this, they will adapt, they will understand. I don't think it is. I really am a firm believer that the public is so far behind that they cannot handle this. They've been distracted too much. They're not a knowledgeable public anymore because of social media, because of technical gadgets, whether it's the iPhone or the iPod, iPads, anything Apple does. Okay, they are not ready. You know, when we are more worried on the news of learning about Kanye and Kim than we are about Standing Rock, or we are about disclosure, or even potential World War III with Russia that Hillary wanted, or Bernie getting screwed over in the Democratic election for the leader. Okay, when we are more worried about infotainment, that does a disservice to absolutely everybody. And we got to get into that next hour, Reuben, because I think that is extremely important to get across, if you don't mind.
Okay, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. We have less than a minute left before we are going to take a break. Reuben Langdon is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. He's going the distance with us. And you know what? We love it when they go the distance, because it just, getting that third hour in just puts in so much information. And that's what makes us here at the Mighty SOR different from about 95% of the shows out there. We're going to give you that third hour coming up. Reuben's website is ReubenLangdon.com. Hell, he's all over Google. Just type in his name. He's right there. We'll be back right after this.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where two members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with UFOcop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you checked out the SOR Spacewire at spacedoutradio.com yet? Every day we post the latest stories regarding the weird, strange, and completely unbelievable. From cryptid and UFO sightings to the conspiracy world, we tackle it all. Hi there, I'm Eric Markham, Spaced Out Radio's news director for the SOR Spacewire. And if you have a story, I want to hear it. email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Every month on Spaced Out Radio, we look into the deep and dark reports of cryptids roaming around the world with me, Rob Morphy from Cryptopia.us. I would love it if you would join me and host Dave Scott as we delve into the most arcane stories and reports regarding creatures of the unknown. My job is to hunt down the details and bring the evidence forward to you. These aren't your regular Bigfoot stories I'm talking about either. You can find out more about crypto history at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us on Spaced Out Radio? Head to spacedoutradio.com to check out the latest shows, guests, and sponsors. And don't forget to sign up for the Space Travelers Club. You'll find all you need at spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back to the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for being along for the ride, especially everyone listening in on the United Public Radio Network live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 160 countries around the world. Thank you for bringing us into your listening schedule. We really do appreciate it on this end. If you're listening in on the Double R machine, Revolution Radio is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Do us a favor, visit freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Boustrophenodon. Boustrophenodon is your password. What it means, no idea. But that's the way Bill does it, as he says the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Remember, you can follow us all over social media on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. And our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a lot of cool features for you there, including the SOR Sightlines Report. So if you've had an experience you want some answers to, our investigator Mike Schmidt is waiting for you to fill it on out. If you like our music, you can thank the resident guitar god Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses. You can click on his banner to check out a few more songs that are really, really rocking. Read up on my latest blog. Check out Eric Markham's SOR Spacewire. And, of course, you can join the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's only $5 a month. With that, you get a bunch of cool swag opportunities and so much more. Hey, we give you a hell of a lot more than just access to our archives. For the final time tonight, we introduce Reuben Langdon. He is an actor. He's a director. He's helped in citizen hearings on UFO disclosure, and it's a disappointing one at that. And we'll get into that momentarily. We bring Reuben back in. His website is ReubenLangdon.com. Welcome back, Reuben.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Hey, right before the break, we were talking about whether or not the public is ready for any type of ET disclosure. When I see what's going on right now, and I see people's reactions to Hollywood movies, even in our chat rooms where everybody thinks that aliens are bad, aliens are coming to take us over, which I think if they wanted to, they would have by now. Okay?
Exactly. Yeah.
Everybody is pointed at the negative of any type of disclosure. Right. I really do not believe, whether you're a person who is a laborer or whether you're a person with a higher education, I really do not believe that the public through and through is ready for disclosure. What is your take on that?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. And the events that are happening in the world, especially in the past couple of weeks, are perfect examples. One great example is the election of Donald Trump. Especially, I sort of go in and out of being in the UFO world. You're sort of right on the cusp, and you got one foot in the UFO community and you have another foot in the spiritual community. And there's a lot of spiritual people who pride themselves on being, meditators and forgiving, loving people. And to see them flip out and lose their stuff, right? I don't know how much language we could use on this show, but I'll try to keep it PG. To really watch them flip out and when Trump was elected, and he hasn't even been sworn in office, just wow. And I'm like, wow. And I thought these guys and gals were like of the spiritual nature and had, loved everything and no matter what. And they're still angry. And then, Trump announced he was, I forget this guy, Bennett, who's the guy that he said he was going to appoint that's like a known, got a pretty bad history or stuff. But I don't know. Every day, Trump's putting in these people, and they're sort of announcing that he's going to put these people into power, and it's all doom and gloom, and everybody's just waiting for the end of the world and concentration camps and all that stuff. But I mean, the hate and the just the mean comments and all this stuff. I'm like, whoa! I thought you were part of the side that was like forgiving and like all carried and, not discriminatory in any way. And here it is, we're seeing the true colors. So even those who are of the so-called, enlightened spiritual ones that are supposed to be of love and light are losing it. And, no, we're not ready for ET contact, because what would happen if some aliens came down, people would really lose it. I truly think that all of this is preparation for disclosure, and we're working it through, and we'll get there. We're getting there very soon. And this is probably, in fact, the whole Trump thing was probably has put us now on the fast track of getting to a disclosure world. But I still think we got some time. I think we got to work out some stuff. I think, ultimately we have to come together as one, human race without, and come to understand that we are all uniquely different, but yet we are all part of this one ecosystem on planet Earth, and work together and get by our differences. Not that being different is bad, being different is good. Accept the differences, but it be acceptance of all. Then at that point, the ETs can say, "Congratulations, you passed the test. You've done it. Now you get to hang with the galactic folks." This was the biggest thing. This is the biggest problem you guys had, and that's why we haven't landed, because we didn't want to get shot at, and we didn't want, to be discriminated against, and we didn't want all the, the goofiness that you guys do in your daily lives. We didn't want that in our lives, so we sort of watched it from afar until you sorted all that out. So I think that's what's happening. I think we're sorting it out.
Well, I mean, the big thing is whether or not the government wants, there's a lot of people out there who want this disclosure to happen. Whether or not the people in the mainstream, because we really have to separate the people who are believers who want it comparatively to the people on the other side who are so mainstream that they believe everything the media tells them. They believe everything they read in the newspapers. They believe everything their government tells them. And you know what? They're happy with their 2.1 children, their picket fence, their one dog, one cat, and their goldfish in the fishbowl. And when it comes down to it, those are the people we need to worry about. There's going to be, in my opinion, if disclosure were to happen, there's going to be a market change, whether it's good or bad.
Yep.
There's going to be religious suicides. We've seen that before when Hale-Bopp flew by. Okay. We can see all of these different distractions. What happens with religion, where every man-made religion has told people aliens are demons, aliens are bad. There is no such thing. If you see something like that, that's the devil's work. So it opens up this entire Pandora's box that is going to lead to a ton of fear-mongering, in my opinion, as well as a ton of, I don't even know how to put it. Okay, I look at the gun problem in the U.S. now. What happens if aliens arrive? What's going to happen then?
Exactly.
Okay, because
these are all valid signs that we're just not ready. Not in that sense. On an individual basis, absolutely, and I'm sure many of your listeners are having experiences individually. But and you're right. Absolutely, we have to just give it some more time, and those who are ready can, like we're having this conversation right now, have this conversation with more people, and the more people, we can see it. We can see the mainstream media is failing miserably, especially how they handled the elections, how they're handling all the news, really. It's people are waking up to these facts. They're turning to social media. They're turning to alternative media sources. They're turning off the TV, period. They're not, becoming more concerned with the local economies, as far as, shopping locally, farming locally, buying locally. It's still small, but I think this is sort of the trends we're starting to see, where it's going, and I think it's going to continue to go in this direction. Getting off our dependency of oil, Tesla being super profitable, and what the Elon Musk and what he's doing. the world is ready. The world wants this shift, and we're in the transitionary phases, and it's going to take a few more years to work it all out. But I do believe we're on the fast track, especially since we have Trump in the office. I think if we were stuck with Hillary for another 4 years, we may have had World War III. We all could have died, but but that's another story. With Trump, who knows what's going to happen? It could be very fast. I don't think it's going to be dragged out, though. I think we're going to get to wherever we need to get to fairly quickly.
Well, we will soon see, and I'm looking in the chat rooms now because I mentioned the whole gun issue. Holy shit, here we go. Anyways,
right.
The fact is, I'm not going to turn this into a whole gun thing, but I mean, the fact is,
and the gun thing is, and people have the right to be where they're at with the gun thing, because realistically, where are we at? Right now things are in such a turmoil. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and everybody wants to protect their self and their family. But really, there's just a lot of uncertainties in the world, and I think that's, as soon as we clear these up, as soon as we clear up the uncertainties, as soon as we come together as one human species, then the gun issue will be something we can discuss and talk about in a more realistic manner. Because right now, there's several sides to it, and you know what? Because of the unstable arena that we're in, both sides have valid cases, have valid points to present. So I would say don't even go there tonight on the gun thing. That's something that's going to have to work itself down the road once the argument is more favorable to one side. And right now it's not favorable to either side. It's just a big mess.
Oh, true enough. But you know what? The Second Amendment was sure made for AR-15s. Let's just get that right out. I'm going to end that. I'm going to end that whole topic. I am going to end that. Yes, because muskets, when the law was written, were so powerful.
Right. Exactly. And we didn't have a military that also has, sonic weaponry and, drone attacks either. So, yes, we're in a completely different age than we were back in the day. So, but now's not the time. There's many other issues we need to sort of address.
Yes, I just don't.
Thing is on the table.
You know what? Canada, I'll say this and we'll end the conversation on guns. Canada has per capita just as many guns around here. But at least you're not allowed to open carry. At least you're not allowed to have a handgun. Okay, you can own a handgun, but you have to have it registered with the police. You're allowed to take it to the shooting range and back home. But if you stop at Safeway for groceries in between, that's bad. You know what I'm saying? So,
but let me throw this out there. Canada, though, the consciousness of the Canadian people is in a much different. I was just in Canada last weekend. I was in London, Ontario. The consciousness of the Canadian people it's a much different animal than America. America is such a mixed bag, and there's so much stuff going on here. That's why I said the gun thing is something that we need to tackle when America can catch up to the consciousness of Canada. And not saying that, America's below or above Canada. Well, actually it's below on the map, but, Canadian people are refined in their responsibilities when it comes to guns and to people, not just guns, but to people in common courtesies. And I know this from spending time there. and people are friendly. People respect each other. There's more of a common courtesy in Canada than there is in the States. Not obviously, there's wonderful places in the States. I'm just saying, I'm generalizing overall, and I'm sure there's some horrible areas in Canada too that where that common courtesy goes out the door. But from all the places I've been in, from Vancouver to London to Toronto, wow, you guys are like the nicest people on earth. and you know, when you have nice people, you don't need a bunch of guns. And if you have guns, you're very responsible with them. So, you know, I think it really goes along with the, you know, I use the term consciousness of the people. You know, you have, like Japan, you have it's a different consciousness, and America is its own animal, and I don't think it's the gun problem per se. It's not the problems of the gun control and things like this. We need to get other arenas in our lives in order, and then we can tackle that issue, if that makes any sense. That's my opinion on it anyways. Not saying that what we have going on right now is right or wrong, and you know, that's totally messed up. There's a bunch of issues going on, but there's a lot of work. We got a lot of work to do as a people and as a collective. And you can see that. You can see that with what's been going on with the whole election fiasco, and you can see that with people's attitudes towards other peoples around the world. This idea of building a wall, and the hatred towards Muslims, and the lesbian gay community. There's all of this separation in America and non-acceptance, even though America is such a melting pot of different ethnicities and backgrounds. But, you know, maybe because it is that melting pot, we do have all these things that we have to work out. And I think we can, and I think we are, and I think that's exactly what's happening. And all these trigger points in our media, in our social media, in our political arenas are all opportunities for us to look at one another and accept one another and decide and stand for what we truly want for our future on this planet. And that's why I said we're just going through the growing pains. Mm-hmm. We're going to constantly be going through them, but America especially, because it is such a melting pot. Mm-hmm. And you guys get to watch from afar and just laugh. Oh, look at those celebrities. But you guys got Trudeau. He's pretty cool too.
Well, not all Canadians are good. Not all Canadians are good. Yeah. You know, there are a few out there who, you know, I mean, look at Vancouver riots over a Stanley Cup final loss to Boston a couple of years ago. Well, you know, I mean, we do have some assholes here.
Absolutely, but you know what? You guys have hockey, and that is your vent. That is your one like excuse to really get nasty. And because you have that, I feel like that's why Canadians are so nice. I think because if everybody in America played hockey, we would probably be okay. We'd probably be a lot mellower. And, you know, we'd just play hockey and drink beer, and what a great country this would be. So, I know I was just in Canada last weekend, so this is all fresh. So probably over generalizing things, but it's all good. It's all good. Sorry, I think we got off topic there.
Oh, that's all right.
Disclosure.
That's all right. Yeah, remember the whole alien conversation? Anyways, I really don't think the public is ready. There's too much fear-mongering in the media, too much paranoia in the media. Yeah. Everybody is on edge right now, and I really think if Hillary would have got in and John Podesta would have got his way, and you're saying that it would have never happened. But let's just say hypothetically, for conversation's sake, that it did. I really don't believe in the state of the way North America is right now, and mainly that being in the United States, that anybody could really handle knowing that we've got conflicts all over the world, and now we have to decide whether or not we have to deal with these aliens that are coming down from the skies above to say hello.
Right. And you know, look at, you can see the trends of the mainstream scientific community, the mainstream media, and how it's all sort of creating a disclosure scenario, or it has been a slow drip sort of idea of, okay, the discovery of, you know, water on the moon, water on Mars, exoplanets, potential planets that have that could harness life. You know, it's you know, every month or a couple of months we get a new nugget of information that sort of points to a potential. And I feel we're going to continue on this trend of potentials until really everybody's sort of okay with it, you know. And this is the way. This is the establishment's way of slow drip, time released, nice and easy on the system. We don't want to shock anything. Way of doing it. I mean, and if I was a world leader and I had a populace that sort of needed to keep in line to keep going to the pumps and buying the oil and buying the energy and keeping the Apple computers being bought and all the things in society in order, so to say, as little disruption as possible, to keep the consumers consuming, because if they're not consuming, then that means, you know, I'm not going to live in my $1 billion penthouse. I'm going to do everything I can do to stall that order, that disruption, and even ease into that as much as I can. So I think that's what's happening. I think we're getting disclosure, again, from the bottom up. And the only way to expedite this planned slow drip, time-released disclosure from above is for us on the bottom end to become aware, to spread the news, to do what we're doing right now, to have this conversation, to keep the, you know, the more we stand up for what we know is real, what we know is right, then just like in the Hollywood movies, if we want the people to keep consuming these movies, we're going to have to give them what they want. And they're going to create movies that, you know, or create products and create ideas and stories that are going to, you know, satisfy the crowds, satisfy the people. So there's two ways to do it, but the more we push, the more we, you know, cut our dependence from oil, then the faster these other technologies are going to come out. The more we talk about disclosure, more talk about ETs are real, the more we have the conversation that we're, you know, hey, I'm having conversations with ETs. I'm going to every day. I'm, you know, having, you know, meeting hybrids, or I'm having this thing, and there's other dimensional realities, and there's free energy technologies, and it all exists. And then we start showing it, pulling it out of our collective consciousness, or putting it into our collective consciousness. Then they have no choice, you know. The powers that be will give us what we want.
On the flip side, let's talk about the government side of disclosure. Do they want it? Do they, in government, people whom you have talked to and your sources have talked to, do they believe the public is ready, and do they want disclosure themselves?
On a personal level, I think everybody wants disclosure. On a government collective level, nobody wants disclosure. Again, reason being the energy infrastructures of the planet are reliant on oil, natural gas, coal, dirty old technologies, combustion type technologies. That infrastructure has been created as deep. It's a deep, dirty, nasty infrastructure. To disrupt that would mean taking money out of a lot of people's pockets, because a lot of people have invested into this infrastructure. So independently, it's all nice. It's roses and unicorns and butterflies and all of that nice stuff, because we're not hurting the environment, and we're on these new technologies that run on free energy or sustainable energy, that's renewable energy, that's going to cause no pollution, and they're great, yes, but we don't have the infrastructure for that. So for disclosure to happen immediately, what are people going to do? Are they going to demand these new technologies? Are they, what's that transition? How is there going to be a transition? And a lot of people don't have a transition in mind. I believe, I personally, from my research, I think ethanol is a good transition technology, because we can use the existing infrastructure and run our vehicles on ethanol. And, we're putting in solar and wind for some of the bigger power plants and these kinds of things. Germany's doing a great job of sort of keep transitioning their infrastructure. But we, in America, we haven't even begun any sort of infrastructure shift, change. In fact, we keep investing in the same old, look at the Standing Rock, the Dakota pipeline. It's the same old garbage. And we're, I guess the power structures are just trying to milk it as long as they can. And they're going to keep going down that path until eventually people, like I said, people have to take charge and start not giving them their money. And we're doing that because it is getting so bad. Standing Rock has been a great catalyst for people like DiCaprio and Susan Sarandon and Mark Rufio and all these other heavy Hollywood players to pull their money out of oil and put it into renewables. And that's putting a small, very, very small dent into the oil industry. But I think I just posted on my Facebook, what, 2.6 trillion in fossil fuel investments have been pulled out, thanks to DiCaprio and his film and then all of the other the awareness that's been created through Standing Rock. And this is just through the non-mainstream media, the underground media and whatnot. But we can, it's like I said, we're on the fast track. It is happening. But if the more America in the world wakes up to the fact that things aren't right, if we want a thriving civilization, we cannot keep going down the path we're going. And that sucks for a lot of people. A lot of people want to hang on to them guns. A lot of people don't want robots taking their mundane factory jobs away. A lot of people, want to keep driving the old beat up pickup truck that needs a better catalytic converter, that's polluting the air. A lot of people, have the big farms that rely on Monsanto seeds and want to keep putting glyphosate and other, the Roundup or whatever they're using to keep that way of doing things, because that's the way they're used to doing things, and that's what brings in the money and pays the bills. But collectively, we got to say, hey, no, this is not the way to do it, and we are sort of waking up to the fact and saying, no, that's not the way we got to switch it up. We can't keep doing this. So, once again, I think I got way off topic. What are we talking? We're back to disclosure again.
Well, you know what? The problem is you're bringing up very valid points, because it does tie in, Reuben, into everyday life. So it does affect what happens at the grocery store, what happens at the pump.
Right.
Because any disclosure would probably bring some sort of free energy. And what are the petroleum companies going to do at that point? It does affect what is going to happen religiously. It is going to affect the way people conduct their everyday lives. So you're bringing a human fact to it, which I think the importance is. Now, on the flip side, maybe some of your sources have had contact with extraterrestrials. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, in those contacts that maybe your sources have had, or discussions they have had, do we or are we any closer to finding out if the aliens above want disclosure?
They definitely want it, from my sources. Absolutely, they are super excited that humanity is getting closer daily to opening up to its galactic family. We are just another member of the family, so to say, that has been shut off from our neighbors, even though they may be several light years away, but neighbors nonetheless. And they're super stoked. It's like having that neighbor over there that you can't really talk to because they're always arguing amongst themselves, and until finally they sort of work out their problems, and then you kind of, you're always watching from afar. And then finally it seems peaceful enough that maybe I'll go into their yard and go check them out. And then guns go firing, you're like, oh, not yet. I'll go hang out in my safe spot over here until they can finally settle down. And then once, after the coast is clear for, a good while, and I know it's safe, then maybe I'll go over there and check them out and go say hi, or maybe wait for them to say hi to me. I don't think that's the case. I don't think they're waiting for us to go say hi to them. But who knows? At least like you were asking, from my sources, they're super stoked from talking to people who have experiences regularly. They definitely are stoked. They can feel the energy. They, the way they see it. They are actually the whole Trump election was, I post this on one of my other sites. I have called Interview with Ed, Extra Dimensionals. There seems to be a lot of chatter amongst ETs about the Trump election, and they are actually congratulating humanity on this progressive step forward into a positive direction that will get us, that has put us closer to disclosure. Not going into details, but this is just energetically, we're getting there. So they're very vague in their time-space predictions. They don't like to give predictions. But,
with your sources who have discussed on the governmental side with you in regards to the full-on disclosure, how would this affect what they do on a daily basis? Because any type of disclosure full or partial, is going to draw a lot of controversy and a lot of eyes towards places like Area 51 or Dulce or Diego Garcia, and trying to figure out what technology is being used for what. This opens up a whole can of worms here on the governmental side as well.
Well, without going into detail, because I don't have a ton of details. My sources, so to say, keep it very vague to me as well. But there's a lot of people in the military that want this information out. Government side, I can't speak on that side. I'm not too in on government, but at least in the military side of things, I think a lot of people who get into the military to specific positions and higher ups, and they see the technologies that have been recovered, reverse engineered. They see the other beings, that interactions and these sort of things on that side of the world. But they can't say anything because they took an oath. And they see how we're sort of holding back humanity because of corporate bureaucracy and decisions made from, political suits, people who are in power that may not have the best interest of the people in mind, but more personalized agendas and corporate agendas. These people in the military can see all that. So they are not happy. And they do want to see the people of the world have access to these technologies, have access to the information. But again, because they swore an oath and they're bound by that military code, they can't do what's really needed. So they're sort of, again, clapping or what do I say? They're trying to support from afar and do what they can and are sort of waiting for the day for the walls to be broken down. And I think that's what's happening. I think our political media and everything else, those walls are coming down, and we're getting there.
When you have talked,
I don't know if that was kind of hitting around the question, but not being, you can't be super direct in that sense. Sorry. Not because I'm trying to be mysterious and say, oh, this or that. The information that comes in through those avenues, it is sort of mysterious. It's not direct.
Oh, very much so. And I think everyone can appreciate, I'm not going to be one of these people, who are your sources? Because you're not going to give them up. I mean, you can't. Right. You gave someone their word.
Sometimes I don't even know my sources. Like I just hear, I hear these things and they're even saying, look, I'm hearing this and that, and take it with a grain of salt. I mean, but it seems to be consistent over the years since doing the citizen hearing. So now this seems to be a common theme, even coming from Russia and the Russian military. Like they're in the same boat as the American military as far as the information, trying to get it out to the public and everything else. So it's very much, just as much a similar issue on their side as it is on our waters and our land.
Do other countries take this disclosure movement seriously? Because it always seems to be focused so much on Washington, D.C. and what the United States government does. What's happening in Russia with it? Or China, Japan, Great Britain?
Other countries are taking it a lot more serious than America. America doesn't take it seriously at all, at least on the outside, they don't. And when I say on the outside, we've uncovered documents. They're not publicly talking about it. America's not saying, oh, well, here's the UFO files. We have the files we have are just files dug up from researchers who have gone through used the Freedom of Information Act and painstakingly dug up files and have put them out there. There's no public release of files related to the ET issue, so to say, in the government released way. It's always sort of been through the back door when it comes to America. Other countries have publicly gone and said, hey, look, of course they're not releasing all the files. They're releasing a very limited number of them, but enough to say that, okay, these governments are taking the issue seriously. They're informing their public to a certain extent. Brazil being one of the bigger ones that have really gone full on into releasing their files and really trying to get to the bottom of things. France, Uruguay, China to a certain extent. It's definitely, it's funny, in China you can't talk about ghosts, but you can talk about ETs. And the government seems to admit that ETs are real, and they won't go into details, but some UFO researchers have access to way more than any of the U.S. researchers would have to our government. And even Russia. Russia has released a number of files, and it seems America is the last in line when it comes to any sort of government cooperation of getting anything on the issue. So, and again, I think that just comes to corporate interest. Most of these big energy companies they're global, but the global military, the global police, the global guards of the energy seem to be the U.S. military, not by choice. I think most of the military have sort of come to the realization that they're, much like the police and Standing Rock are just like, oh my God, how did I get here? I took an oath and signed a paper, and now I'm protecting corporate interests and destroying the planet Earth. Oh, great. But I have a wife and kids, and I have to pay the bills, and I don't know what else I'm going to do at the moment. So I will simply do what I'm told and keep quiet. And I took an oath, and I honor the military structure, that idea. There's a whole unwritten code that goes into all of that I also deeply respect. It's like a martial code that, me being a martial artist, have I can completely understand and relate to, but it's not really serving the planet right now, and I think a lot of people are coming to that realization. But anyways, yeah, America's these corporations have the American military to sort of do their evil bidding, and it's not going to serve them by releasing any files on UFOs and potential free energy. That's it.
We only got about 10 minutes left with you. I'm very interested in your series, Interview with Ed. Tell everybody what it's about.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. So this is a very non-scientific, a very non-provable journey I've taken, more of a personal journey into the realm of channelers, people who go into altered states and claim to have connections with ETs, and the ETs actually use the channelers as conduits to speak of where they come from, their planetary bodies, their different races, different energies, And then I go and I have conversations with these cats, both the channelers and the people and the entities that come through the channelers. So I'm sort of creating I call it a synopsis or a glossary of our galactic families. And the information, it goes deep. It's amazing what I'm uncovering in this series. And it's a lot of fun for sure. And, it's like the discovering what the construct of reality is. That's sort of been the main theme of a lot of my questions, but really just trying to find out the different ET races and what they're about and what their belief systems are and their interactions with the human race and, what do they think of Donald Trump and that kind of thing.
So out of all the people you've done with this, how many different races have you had people channel through?
Well, let's see, I've got Arcturians, I've got Palladians, I've got Zeta Reticuli, I've got Yael, and I'm probably missing some in there. I think those are sort of the keys right now. Mantis beings, and there's different grades too. So one person may channel the 12th dimensional Arcturians, and another person may channel the 5th dimensional Arcturians. So even though they're Arcturians, and again the Arcturians, it's a big star and it's a large star system. So there's several habitable planets within that star system. So you're talking to different groups and dimensional densities, and this is where I was saying I'm sort of creating this glossary or term sheet to go along with the series, which I should probably do. I should probably have a supplemental term sheet, but they're all, even though they're maybe one channeler, but they're different beings and different grades of beings and different perspectives and ideas. But generally, there's a main sort of through theme on the series that shows that all of our star brothers and sisters are, their idea of what the construct of reality is, it's pretty much the same. We all create our own realities. We're all sort of in our own little quantum bubbles, shifting from timeline to timeline, and every second, every moment, based on our vibrational frequencies. So kind of Nikola Tesla had it right when he said, when you see the world as vibrational frequencies, and you can really understand things. It's not a direct quote, but somewhere in there. So yeah, that's they're sort of speaking that lingo, the quantum theory singularity lingo is what they often sort of refer to, get back to.
Are you surprised that there are so many people channeling extraterrestrial energies or spirits or whatever they're channeling?
In the beginning, yes, I was like, wow, this even exists. This is fascinating. That's why I started the series, is I wanted to find out more. But as I'm getting into it, it's in just like you and I are talking disclosure, or in your audience, or we talk about UFOs all the time. When you're sort of around it all the time, it sort of becomes a normal thing. So much so that channeling is not, like, even I've channeled from time to time. It's not a strange thing anymore when you're sort of around it. Like ET, when we're having this conversation all the time about ETs. Oh yeah, I saw a UFO the other day. Oh yeah, me too. It's kind of like that. It's like, yeah. So I was talking to this being from the Pallades, and the other guy, your friend may say, oh yeah, really? I was just I was aboard a ship last week in my dreams, and I was on the Yael ship, and then I saw the hybrid kids and they were beautiful. You know, it becomes a daily conversation into that, going into that realm, those realms. And not so strange, not anymore. No, nothing is, my world is completely turned upside down for the past 10 years.
I have to tell you this, probably my strangest channeling story was I was channeling for a lady named Samantha Mowat, who is a guest on here. Our regular listeners will know who she is. She's been an ET contactee her entire life, and she wanted me to go back to her homeland. So I figured I would give it a shot, and next thing I know, I am like gone, and I'm going through this, you know, like you would see on Star Trek or Star Wars when they go into hyperdrive and the stars all of a sudden become these white lines in the sky, or, you know, in space, and you go through this tunnel, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're there. I actually went through that on the way there, saw her planet, but on the way back, they put me through that hyperdrive again, and I remember it stretching out my neck like I felt I was stretching, and it caused me to start coughing so bad that 2 days later I actually went to emergency because I was having chest pains, and I thought I was having a heart attack. And what
happened?
Well, my family, here's the funny part. My family doctor happened to be working emergency that day. And he's quite a character, and I'm quite a character, but he's all Mr. Science. And he goes, "Would you like to tell me what happened?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Why not?" I said, "Because you won't believe me." And and he goes in his best British accent, because he's from England, he goes, "David, maybe you should try me on. I've heard a lot of weird stories with this coat on." And I said, "I was channeling extraterrestrials, and I was coming back, and I hurt myself, coughing."
Right.
And he goes, "Well, that's a story." And he quickly walked away.
There you go. Not everybody's ready for disclosure.
No, not at all, my friend. Not at all. Is there one experience as time winds down here while you're in a channeling session that actually caught you, or maybe you were listening to a story that caught you off guard?
Oh, geez. Well, I had a personal experience about a year ago with a mantis being. I don't have a name for him. It felt like a male energy, and it was sort of like this telepathic communication that, and it's so hard to describe for those of your listeners who have had these types of telepathic communications. That are exactly what I'm talking about. But if you hadn't had this kind of telepathic communication, unless you're an empath, you probably wouldn't know what I'm talking about, and you'd probably think I'm just talking nonsense. But when it happens, and it will happen, trust me, we're all becoming very telepathic in our evolution. And at least, you know, hopefully in our lifetimes, when disclosure happens and we can have more telepathic communications with these ETs, it was just so profound. Like the whole situation, the communication, the information, and you just know, I didn't have a physical visitation per se. It was just all done in this telepathic way, and my body was literally vibrating and shaking. And I think from the energy, whatever the downloads that I was getting. But it's just what a phenomenon, you know. You can't. And then later, you know, I went and I've been sort of went on the internet and tried to investigate mantis beings, because I didn't, even though I've been doing this series, I didn't have a whole lot of information on them other than a few interviews I had heard that Linda Moulton Howe did. And I actually contacted her and I said, "Hey, Linda, I got contacted by this mantis being." She interviewed me, shared some of her stories. I read up on all of her interviews with the mantis beings, and they all correlated exactly with this download that I had gotten on, you know, their archetypes and their roles in the universe and the galaxy and what what their role is with humanity. And one of the episodes on my series, it's a free episode on YouTube. You can go to interviewwithed.com, all one word, and actually interview 2 people who claim to be mantis hybrids. And they're in Barbara Lamb and Miguel Mendoza's book, Meet the Hybrids. And Jacqueline Smith and Robert Fullington, they both claim to be mantis hybrids. And during this interview, I sort of kept my story that I had an interaction with the mantis beings to myself until about halfway through the interview. And I sort of got enough from them that I needed to sort of validate, to say, okay, yeah, these guys are legit. Because of my own personal experience, I wanted to see if it matched up. So you can watch that interview and you can see I sort of go into a little bit of my experience there.
My friend, I got to wrap this thing up. I apologize.
All right.
We got
No
30
problem.
seconds left. ReubenLangdon.com and interviewwithed.com. Reuben, I want to say thank you so much for doing this, my friend. That was awesome.
Thank you. Had a good time.
You hold on 1 second here. I'm going to quickly wrap this thing up. Mr. Bumblefoot is playing. He brings us in and out of every episode. Tomorrow night on the show, we have Ray Szymanski, Rob Mercer. We're talking San Augustine crash and UFOs in general. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time. Visit our website, spacedoutradio.com, and do me a favor, tell a friend. Really appreciate your time for following us here on the show. Bring some more in. We love having you around. We'll do it again tomorrow night. See you in 21 hours. Good night.